What's going on, everybody? I hope you are having an amazing day wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, whatever the circumstances are. Today, I wanted to unpack this idea of self-love a little bit. This is something that comes up over and over again in our practice, and a lot of times we trace a lot of the challenges that people face and our athletes face and our clients face back to this idea of self-love. So firstly, what does that even mean? And so without making this a super long discussion, love in itself is a uniting force. It's a bonding force. Love brings things together. Love creates universes, actually. And so with love being something that brings things together, when it comes to self-love, one way to look at it is developing a deeper and deeper relationship with yourself, bringing more and more of the pieces of yourself together, bonding union, being in union with yourself, being aligned with yourself. And so how do you do that? What does that look like? One of the simplest things is to simply look at all the different areas in your life that maybe aren't going the way that you want them to, whether that's your finances, whether that's your relationships, whether that's your career, whether that's your physical health, whatever it might be. There's many different elements, aspects of life. Find the ones that aren't going as well as you'd like them, and then ask yourself, what is the story behind that? What parts of myself are contributing to that thing not being the way that I want it to be, the way that I would like it to be? And then once you figure that out, the first step is just bringing acceptance to that. Because there's, a level, you could say there's a level before love, which is just acceptance, being okay with where things are at. And then as you bring that acceptance there, learn to invite that into you and realize that even the parts of yourself, even the areas of your life that maybe aren't where you want them to be or how you want them to be, those parts are still just as much you as all of the other things that are going well. And so then you have to ask yourself, well, are there any parts of me that are more or less worthy of love than other parts? And most people, if you're, being honest with yourself, is no. Like all parts of you are worthy of love. And any of the parts of you that you neglect or reject or suppress, or that you just simply don't want to look at, those ultimately end up becoming your shadow. And your shadow ends up popping up in the parts of your life or in the relationships or in the circumstances that aren't bringing you more of what you want in your life. So paradoxically, the way to develop more self-love is to be able to look at all the different parts of yourself and be able to accept and to ultimately be compassionate towards and be loving towards the parts of yourselves that you don't like or that you may not necessarily value as much as the other parts. And then through that, you start to, again, going back to the union, you start to bring more of those pieces of yourself together. And as you bring more of those pieces to yourself together, you start to shine a light on the shadow elements of yourself. And because you bring them up into consciousness and you allow them to be just as much a part of you as everything else. And then as you do that for yourself, you're also able to heal those parts of yourself that you may not like to see in other people. Because what we see outside of us is a mirror of what's going on inside of us. So if there are relationships or people that you might not like or different circumstances, you can't really change what's going on out there. You can't control other people, but you can choose how you react and how you respond and how you choose to view those things and your perspective about those things. So as you develop more and more acceptance and love for all the different parts of yourself, that naturally extends out into the world. And as you continue to get deeper into yourself, that love continues to expand out more and more into the world. And ultimately, your sense of self begins to extend more and more out into the world, because you start bringing more and more of these pieces in, and you start seeing the connectedness between everyone and everything. And ultimately, you might find yourself at a point where you realize that it's all one thing. And what you identify as yourself is actually everything, because the self keeps expanding and it keeps expanding until it encompasses the entire world, until it encompasses the entire universe, because you realize that it is all you, because you couldn't be here without all of it. And in that sense, you learn how to love all of it. And the more you learn how to love all of it, because you see it as part of yourself, the more you're able to then bring that love in and develop more and more self-love. And when you get to that place, when you learn how to develop that capacity, then everything is worthy of love, because everything is you. Even the parts that you may not like to look at is still you, which is everything. So what I would invite you to do as a practice, and I've done this before, and I do this regularly, is just look at the mirror, look into the mirror without any, as if you were looking at somebody you've never seen before. And just meditate with that. Just be with that. Don't try to put labels on it. These are my eyes. This is my lips. This is my face. I don't like that. I don't like this. Just look at it as if you've never ever seen that before, and see what comes up for you. And I invite you to use that as a practice to help you develop more and more of self-love. And this, as a final piece here, this is a two-way street, because even though you might be able to cultivate those feelings within yourself, ultimately, if you actually physically do things that make you feel better, like eating higher quality foods, like, moving your body, caring for your body, that too can help that sense of acceptance and love. Because if you're rejecting parts of yourself and therefore aren't taking care of parts of yourself, it can be that much harder to bring acceptance and love to those parts of yourself. So if you actually work on yourself and develop yourself and grow, it does make it easier to accept, embrace, and love all of those different parts of yourself, because you know that you're working on becoming better. You're not perfect, but you're working on being the best that you can be. And that's all that we can do. I hope this helps, and I look forward to talking to you again very soon. Peace.